We're live. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I think we definitely had some technical difficulties today.
Today was the challenge day. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we hopefully we have a great topic and then y'all just ignore the backgrounds and do all of that
Yes.
stuff. So
All
we
that
just
stuff. Yes.
yeah, so we just won't have to worry. Don't worry about the background, guys. Uh this conversation's on the patio. How about that?
There you go. We have multiple patios. Okay. So I'm pretty excited about this show because, as you know, I had a really good mom. She passed away a while ago, but Mother's Day is always very special to me. And so I thought we could just do a show about what's important to moms. And I know you're not a mom, right? You're not a
No,
mom.
but I had well, I actually am a my niece, I raised her, so I am
Okay.
actually a
That's
mom.
pretty
Yeah.
momish right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I raised my niece and I'm a surrogate mom.
There
In
you go.
actuality, I'm like the I have probably raised over 1,500 kids in
Goodness
all of the
gracious.
with all the programs that I have been involved in as an educator
Mhm.
so I'm a mom.
You're all right. That counts. I'm
And
with you.
I too had an absolutely amazing mother, and that has made me into the woman that I am today. And then I had an aunt that when my mom passed on, she stepped in. I was a grown woman at that point in time, but you still always need a mother.
Yep.
And so I've been very, very blessed to have some incredible women in my
Awesome.
life. And so yes, mothers are very, very special to me.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
cool. Yes. I'm searching feverishly for my notes about today's thing. So that's why I was a wee bit distracted. So please forgive me.
No
But
problem.
you can see me now, right? I mean,
I
how's
can
that
see
picture
you.
look?
Your picture is excellent.
Yeah, yeah. See, my roommate got me this really cool lamp that works pretty good, except it's still kind of funky sometimes. But anyway,
No,
we're
I
gonna
like
roll on.
it. It's beautiful. And if I had my background like yours, we'd be fine. But I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to reload Chroma Cam and put it back in. They must have had a update, which kind of threw us off, which is okay. That's all right.
Really? I think they did. I think
One
they did.
monkey don't stop no show.
There you go.
That's what my mama always
Yes.
used to say.
One of my favorite women used to say something like, "Why is there never enough time to do it right the first time, but always enough time to do it over?" And I remember she said that to me, and I thought, that hurts. That really,
Yes.
really hurts.
Well,
Okay.
if that was a mother figure, I can understand why they would say that because that's something mother figures say.
Right?
All right,
Did-
exactly.
So, did you happen to get the notes that I sent you about the show
I
today?
did. We were gonna let's see. Is this the one beneficiaries protecting your children? Where's your
Yes.
money? When you have enough, is it your money and how can you contribute? That
Yeah,
one?
that
Yes,
one.
yes,
Yes.
yes, 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 I did.
Let's just go ahead and knock those out and talk about them. As you
Okay.
know, we started before, I think moms are pretty special people, and I get to run into them, um, uh, often, I suppose. And so we just want to talk about how these things relate to them, because they have definitely have different issues to face than men do, and sometimes we as financial advisors don't take that into account. So if we take a look at the first one, um, beneficiaries. So here in the state of California, and indeed in most states, your primary beneficiary is your spouse. And if in a qualified plan, and if you decide that you want to have someone else as a beneficiary, which you most definitely can do, you can name anybody you want, your spouse has to sign off on that. And that works, it works both ways. I had plenty of women come into my office and say, "Why my
Oh
husband get
wait,
to get this money?
wait,
I
happened.
earned it. Why does he get a chance to get it?" And then, of course, I had lots of men come into the office and say the same thing about their spouses. I've never had a gay couple come in and say that, which is kind of interesting. Whoops, Crystal.
I'm here.
Oh, I lost you for a moment there.
Yeah, I did something weird, but I'm I it,
My whole screen went blank.
Mine's too.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, but here, all that notwithstanding, your primary beneficiary is your spouse. And after that, you can name secondary beneficiaries. You can even name what we call contingent beneficiaries. So if,
Wait a minute. Roll that back. So even if you didn't want them to be your primary beneficiary, they are your primary beneficiary?
yes.
What?
Now hold on. Hold phone there. They just have to sign off, and then they have to sign the piece of paper that gives up that right. Yes, I think because back in the day we had lots of very powerful men that would have these plans and insurance contracts, and they would leave their spouse out in the cold by signing the rights over to somebody else. Just, that's not good. So so now the Department of Labor has we're going to call it a law that says, hey, your spouse is your primary beneficiary, unless they sign off on the form that says, I don't want to be the primary beneficiary. If they do that, if they sign there on that dotted line, then you can make anyone your primary beneficiary. And we see this a lot when people have children, especially, and they want the child to be the primary beneficiary.
Business.
And that happens. Wow. That's pretty easy to do.
And that's either male or female. That's either the husband or the wife. Just
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It cuts both ways. And there's a good reason to do it. One example is the trust. Another is, you may have a charity that you want to give the money to.
Yeah.
And that happens often. Another is you may want to give the money to a caretaker because your children are underage. And then once they become of age, you can always change the beneficiary. And I see that happening quite a bit. Sadly, though, none of these folks have wanted to make me their beneficiary. I've been waiting for that to happen. That's just not happening. So yes, you can name beneficiaries. If you can get your spouse to sign off on that, then he or she relinquishes their authority, and then you can name anybody else you want, or your pet as a beneficiary.
Okay, but by default, it is whoever it is that is your spouse when you're signing all your paperwork. So whether you want them to be or not, until they sign off.
Exactly. And also, I would be very, very careful. In fact, I used to tell financial advisors, you want to make sure that all of your clients have their beneficiary information up to date. So it could be something that you want to ask your spouse, hey, is your beneficiary information up to date? Because I used to work for various mutual fund companies. When someone passed away, they would go to the HR person and say, okay, we got the death certificate that Bill passed away, or you sent it to us that Bill passed away. Who's the beneficiary? If they don't have that on file. And whoever the beneficiary is, that's where the money goes, right? So if you happen to be the current spouse, but the former spouse is listed as a primary beneficiary, you just created a problem there, right?
Wow. So let me ask this question with some thought. What happens if the spouse has dementia or Alzheimer's or something of that nature, and you're so caught up in the caregiving of them, and at some point they will not have capacity at all? What happens in those kind of cases when it comes to beneficiaries?
And I don't know. It's one of those situations that's kind of tricky. I've never seen any legislation or anything like that. Part of me says some type of power of attorney if that is assigned in general. But you're making a very, very good point. The husband or wife, whichever one of them, gets married after the second marriage, they develop the dementia. And before you know it, before the second spouse gets a chance to, I have lost you again.
I know it keeps doing something weird. I'm back. I'm here.
I'm not.
Are you back? Am I? It should have been a
I'm back
second.
now. I'm happy
Okay.
that you're back, but I got you. I got you.
Okay. Okay.
I forgot where I was. Anyway, so the second spouse hasn't checked and hasn't because they've been busy dealing with that situation, and then that person happens to pass away, and now the spouse doesn't have the monies that they were needing to get to take care of all kinds of things. So it's always a very, very good, and I'm going to go and say it's always a very loving thing to do, um, to make sure that beneficiary information is updated for your spouse and the people that you want to give the money to.
I have and maybe we can look at having this young lady come on our show as well. I had someone on the community briefing last week. She is a director for the Alzheimer and Dementia Association. Awesome young lady, and that might be a conversation. That might be you know a good conversation for us to have in relationship with retirement, and since you know those are things that would be happening to that would be something that would be happening in that space, in retirement space, when one of the spouses may be having those experiences. She was just amazing with the information that she disseminated, and so if that's
Yeah.
something that you're open to, she was
Oh
she was
yeah,
pretty incredible.
I'm most definitely open. It's a problem I think that is plaguing many of us here as Americans. Is what do we do with this issue of dementia, Alzheimer's, um, or even just old people like me forgetting stuff?
Well, she actually went through and gave us the signs, and there's definitely a difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. But just what you're just saying here, far as and some of the other items that's on our list in that space of retirement, which could also have a major bearing on retirement planning. In
Mhm.
the event of, because there's some early signs, but the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia is there's no reversal on the Alzheimer's. There's no cure for it.
Right.
So which could be um, um, it could be devastating far as your retirement plan.
Is there a cure for dementia?
There are some things, yeah, because some of the causes have to do with maybe some of the medications, high blood pressure. It's um, she talked about sometimes you've been taking medications for blood pressure and diabetes and heart stuff, and as you get older, the medications become toxic in your system,
Uh-huh.
which really starts to create some of the dementia uh, problems.
I see.
Hmm.
So if you get rid of the toxins, then you
Yeah,
get rid
and
of the dementia?
exercise and your diet and things like that could actually reverse the dementia piece if you start early on. But
Wow.
Alzheimer is almost like a apathy in a broad sense of the brain.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
very
so it would be excellent. She would be excellent in and I would talk to her about it, how when we talk about retirement and what that looks like, which is a major depletion of one's funds and a major issue when you're talking about when we're talking about retirement.
right. Yeah. Okay. So let's review.
Mhm.
You can make anyone your beneficiary. Your
Mhm.
primary beneficiary is going to be your spouse. They can, or you can get them to sign off to make someone else your primary beneficiary. You want to make sure you have those beneficiaries um, uh, current. Something else I might want to add is that we generally have two kinds of beneficiaries with regard to the chain, right?
Mhm.
You can do what we call by the branch. That is, let's say that you have a child that is your primary beneficiary, and my screen just went black again.
And
All right, here we go. So you have a child that was that is your primary beneficiary, and that person happens to die in the same accident that you died in. They're in the same car.
Mhm.
You could decide that you want to have that beneficiary go down that child's line of
Of the next
relatives,
available. Okay.
right? So it
Mhm.
could be that child's children,
Okay.
and then that child's children, and then that
Mhm.
child's children, if you happen to be a great grandma,
Mhm.
or it could be uh, the next in or the next of kin. So it could be like that child's wife, and then next of kin there. Where would that be? And then where would that be? So now that I'm sitting here talking with you, I've forgotten the Latin words for that. One is per stirpes, and the other is something else. But you can you can you can decide which way you want it to go. So if this idea of controlling things from the grave
Mm.
has its roots in, I believe, Old England. But the point of the matter is that you can still direct, even without a will, you can direct how you want those assets to be split up. And I like the idea of even if you don't have a will, because it's always, 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 always always a good idea to have that will. It's always a good idea.
Mm.
It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that it's going to usurp the power of the 401k unless you specify that, right?
But it's definitely, and so many people, which is interesting. Most some people think, I guess they feel that if they don't have assets, nothing, they just, some people feel they just, hey, I've been working all my life and all I got is my paycheck and that's it. I don't have nothing to distribute out there. So why should I have a will? But there's so many there's so many other components. We're all working parts, right? We're not just one flat line. We're not just no one linear line. There's so many other components and aspects to us, right?
Yes.
And that will really specifies that. It may be just a basic, but you do have some wishes that
Mhm.
you would like to be carried out. And I think the only way you can do that is to express that in your final document, whatever
There you
that
go.
is, a
Exactly.
final video, a final audio, a final
Yep.
something.
And
And
it's important to do that,
I think
to take
so.
care of that. Yeah.
And I'm almost thinking a final video is even better. Like I have a girlfriend right now going through some stuff, and people like to say, "Oh, you did that will and you were not in there." It's that my mom, not your mom, but not our mom, but my mom was not. You coerced her, and she was in her final in her final capacities, and you were able to convince her to do X, Y,
Right.
and Z, right?
Right.
So maybe it's not a bad idea. It's like, Mom, here, let's just have a little video chat right about now.
I mean, you do know your children for the most part, right?
Right? You do,
You do
right?
know your children. So
Yeah.
I mean, there it is. So
Yes.
that's how the beneficiary thing goes.
Okay.
Okay, what's next on our list?
Protecting your children.
Protecting your children. I think that goes kind of along with establishing the beneficiary. So one way to do that, and I'm kind of glad that I thought of this because people don't really make the connection sometimes that if you sign up a child as your beneficiary, which is a wonderful thing to do, and that child is not yet 18, they have in most states of the union a really tough time collecting the money,
Mm,
right? Because someone has to sign for it,
yes.
right? And so, if you now, God bless you, if your children are over 18 and you don't have to worry about that, they can sign at their leisure. But when children are under the age of majority, things get really dicey as to who's going to take care of them, who can sign on their behalf, are there other corroborating documents? And make no mistake, the financial services company, They don't like dealing with this. They don't want to deal with this. They just want to get rid of it as soon as possible. It's money that they may or may not be able to keep. And it's certainly money that's in someone's name that they're not going to be able to hang on to. So they want to dispense with this as quickly and as easily as possible. So with that in mind, just instructions are a good thing. So can you protect your children? Yes, you can. Are your children under the 18? I would suggest find a caregiver or put the money in a trust so that you have some godparents, but find someone who can sign for that money. And then as soon as your children reach the age of majority, you can connect with your financial services institution and change the beneficiary. It's not going to cost you anything. It's not tough to do. They want you to do that. They really want to make that easy for you to do. Make sense?
I think so. Your screen's gonna black out in a few minutes, but yes, I think that's because it just did it for me again. I think you're very, very right on point because things happen, accidents happen, and you don't think, especially if you're young, and obviously all parents think that they're gonna go before their children, but they think that's gonna be a long time down the line. But also making sure that you really vetted who you want your children to go. People, years ago, the naming of a godparent had much more significance. It wasn't just in name only, right? It was because who is really truly going to raise my child in the event that something's going to happen.
Sure.
So it's not just something you just pull out a hat and say, oh, we had great lunch together yesterday. And let me why don't you take care of my kid? No, that's,
not how that goes.
No, that's not how it goes. So making sure and that you have all of the precautions in place and not just the precursory naming of someone, but making sure you have life insurances in place. You have all the things that's going to take care of your kids, because that's the worst thing in the world, for your kids to be left without the parents that brought them here on this planet, and then they don't have that love of that mother or that father that brought them here.
Right. Couldn't agree more. Agree more. So yes, we can protect our kids. What's next on the list?
Where's your money?
Where your money? Yes, we get that. We get that often. Well, it is not with your employer, so you don't have to worry about your employer taking part of the money. It is not hanging out someplace in the ether, right? It is with the company that holds your assets currently. It is not with your advisor. They can't take any part of it. It is not with your beneficiaries. They can't take any part of it. It's not with your husband. He can't put his hands on it. It is all yours, and it is at that mutual fund company. And that cuts in both ways. You can't just go, oh, he'll take care of it, because you can't touch it. And at the same time, you can't say, oh, he's going to take it away from me. Nope, you can't touch it. So it is at that company. And the only person who can manipulate that is yourself. And that works good or bad too. So I, as a financial advisor, if I'm talking to someone and we agree that they need to do X, Y, Z on their portfolio, I can't just go into their portfolio and change it. I have to give it back to them to change. They have to make those changes. And I can remember talking with financial advisors that say, why can't I do this? I do it for their other monies. They'll have a relationship with that financial advisor where he has discretionary or she has discretionary authority over the participant's account on various other subjects. But when it comes to the 401k plan, they don't have that authority. And someone would say, why is that? Well, it's my feeling that it's because 401k plans have deeper pockets generally than their participants do. And lots of companies, financial services companies, they have extremely deep pockets in some cases, more than the individual person would. And so the chance of some type of lawsuit being levied at the owner of the organization, one or all of the fiduciaries of the organization, and the financial institution, the chance of that lawsuit is very, very real, just in case something happens. So they don't want to have any part of it. And they don't want their advisor slash representative to have any part of it, not in that
Mm.
situation. So even though they have discretionary authority over non qualified plans, non qualified accounts, outside of work accounts, they don't have that discretionary under their work unless you give it to them. Now, you could give it to them. I've never seen that happen, though. Never ever seen it happen. So they can't just go in and take it. So your money is yours, and it's in the market, and it's with that company, be that some huge insurance company that your boss is going to, wherever it is, whoever's sending you the statement, that's where your money is. And you can go to them and say, hey, I need to change my beneficiary, or hey, I need to make a change in the way that my fund is being managed. And they will help you with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's their job to do that.
Okay. All right.
That's where it's at, in the market.
Next one, will you have enough? I'm going to turn my other light on while you answer this question. Excuse me for sliding away for a minute.
Oh, that's much better. The slide was kind of cool. Put that in the repertoire. The slide.
There we go.
So, will you have enough?
Yes.
I talk to a lot of moms, and that's a big issue. And it's a big issue in a couple of different ways that have affected me. The ways that I see, I typically see a situation where a mom will come to see me. She has stepped out of the workforce in order to raise her children, got divorced, and just recently got back into the workforce, and is heading towards retirement in short order. And then the issue becomes, or shorter than she'd like it to be, let's say. And because of that, her level of economic viability has been decreased dramatically. And so the amount of money that she has in order to, to live, to put money into their 401k and to pay off the house and all kinds of other things, it's pretty limited. So, the money just isn't there because she's had some things that she's had to deal with. And then the question becomes, are you going to have enough? That's tough, and God bless you if you're going through some type of a divorce, or if you find yourself suddenly single. That's a horrible place to be. But please do yourself a favor as soon as that event happens and you can get your head on, strapped on right, and start thinking about your future. Please start contributing to your 401k plan. Another thing is that in order for someone to collect Social Security, they have to have worked 40 quarters, which is generally about 10 years. So if you've never worked and you've never collected Social Security and you find yourself divorced, you really need to get that job. Right? You really need to do something so that you can collect Social Security. And we find that in very interesting situations. So, for example, I think I may have told you that I'm working with an organization that helps men of the cloth, women of the cloth, people of the cloth.
The clergy?
The clergy save for their retirement.
That's good.
Yeah, which is all well and good, because if you'll notice, there aren't that many retired preachers around, right? And you kind of wonder why there aren't, and it's because they become financial advisors or school teachers or whatever else, because there's no money for them once they retire. Well, if you think it's bad on them, just think about their spouses. Their spouses who have never worked formally outside the home, except for when they've done all kinds of amazing things in the church. But
Right.
unfortunately, they did those things without pay.
Right.
Right? And now, when it's time for them to get to the point where they're feeling too old to work, since they didn't contribute into the Social Security system, they don't get to get money out. So just think about it this way: your spouse has passed away, you're the non clergy person in the relationship, you haven't worked for Social Security, you haven't had an IRA or something like that, and now the church is going to support you. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Mm-mm.
So you're
Mm-mm.
in a tough spot. So if you're listening to this program and you are of the clergy, get your spouse some kind of savings thing. And if you are the spouse of someone in the clergy, get yourself some kind of a job, something where you can put away monies for Social Security so that at least you can get that if you happen to survive your spouse.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a tough one there. I mean, I've done been done bookkeeping for many churches. Now, the more medium sized churches, they tend to the pastor, part of his package generally, this is medium sized churches, they pay for life insurance on him,
Mhm.
which is adequate enough to take care of his spouse. I mean, it's all part of
Mhm.
the whole package and of his compensation package, and then of course there's a retirement plan for him. That's the medium sized ones. The smaller ones, not so much. Um, and some of them don't even know that there's even a compensation package for the clergy. Some of
Mm.
them have no clue that there's something actually set up for them, that they can be paid. That's um, relatively tax free. Actually, they get a
Yeah.
worksheet. There's a worksheet that they have to fill out, and even if they're staying in housing, church housing and stuff, but
Mhm.
a lot of them don't know that at all.
Yeah, we I participate in, we call it a 403b9, the retirement plan for um,
Hmm.
ministers, and that it does allow for the housing allowance. And
Hmm.
so
Housing allowance.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, so we take part in that,
Hmm.
but the spouse doesn't get a housing
Mm-mm. No,
allowance.
no, she's with that. That's why that life insurance is kind of important. Yeah, and in some cases, like I know one pastor, his wife ran the s- the church store, and so
Mm.
all of the income that came in from the store was hers. I mean, it was
Oh.
literally her store.
Mhm.
So they set it up, and in a lot of cases, depending on the smaller the churches, some of them um, were they had governmental type jobs, so they actually were retired from some entity prior to
Mm.
them becoming ministers, and
Mm.
they had their own retirement. But yeah, it's a you got to do some thinking before you do that on
Very
what
much
does
so.
that looks like for your future. Yeah, you have the calling of the Lord, but what happens past that? Because generally what happens once they move a pastor out or the pastor dies, then they bring in somebody else. Well, now all the benefits of being the pastor of the church and the first lady goes to the next group that comes
Ah,
in, not the former ones.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the way that works.
yeah.
All right. Next question. We ready for the next one?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Is it your money? That was your
That's what I wrote. Is it your money?
uh-huh.
I'm just teasing. Um, it is indeed your money.
Okay.
It does not belong to your family. It does not belong to your church. It does not belong to your partner. It belongs to you. And that's good or bad. You can say, my husband can tell me how to do this because he's the head of our family. Most financial advisors would suggest that the husband and the wife come in and they take that questionnaire together and they have that discussion outside of the financial advisor's office about how this is going to work. Um, but it is your money. And if you have invested traditionally, when you turn age 59 and a half, you will pay taxes on that money. And if you have invested in the Roth section of your 401k, let's call it, then you will not pay taxes on those distributions. One word to remember, so many people scare our participants when they say to them that, hey, you have to pay taxes on the money that you put into your retirement plan, but you only have to pay taxes on the amount that you pull out. So that's why most people roll their assets into an IRA so that they can pull that money out slowly. They don't realize that they could pull the money out of their 401k plan slowly, but most people roll their assets into an IRA. Once you get those assets into the IRA, then they all of a sudden realize, oh, I need to pull some money out. Or maybe that's part of their plan. I need to pull some money out. But let's say you've got $900,000 in there. You don't have to pull the whole $900,000 out. You could pull out $10,000 if that's how much you need, to supplement your Social Security. Or you could pull out $15,000 a year or $15,000 a month, however it is that you're going to work it. You can pull those monies out, and you're only going to be taxed on those monies. And the way that it works is, let's say you from Social Security and from other investment types or what have you, that you have an income of $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So you need a little bit more than that. So you pull $20,000 out of your 401k plan. Okay. So what happens is that $20,000 that you pull out of your 401k plan, for example, that's going to be placed on top of that $40,000. And now you have a new tax bracket, and it is at that level that you're going to pay taxes. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yes, you're going to be taxed on the monies that you pull out, but you're not going to be taxed all at one time on all the money. So you're not going to lose half your money in one fell swoop, unless, and we can leave this for the don't be that guy, unless you take all the money out at the same time, at one time rather. So there was a time when, and this goes into a different philosophical discussion that we don't need to have here, but there was a time when people would take all their money out of their 401k, they would stick it in the bank, and they would ask for their financial advisor to help them manage that. And the financial advisor would say, well, XYZ financial firm just took 50% of your money, so we need to reevaluate. And what they weren't telling them is that XYZ company had reported to the IRS that you now had X amount of dollars in the bank. That is now income. Because you took it out and stuck it in the bank. Right? You took possession of the money. So as a throwback to don't be that guy, do not take your money from your 401k plan and stick it in your checking or your savings account. Do not do that.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Do that. If you're going to take your money out of your 401k plan, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do, if you're going to take your money out of your 401k plan, take it out of the plan, roll it into an IRA. So let's get rid of the word take out. Let's just not talk about that. We're able to say, we don't even know how to spell take out. We're gonna get our terms right. We're gonna
roll over
into the IRA. And when we do that rollover, it's non-taxable. It's not going to cost you anything. And you don't have to worry about peccadillos showing up. And you are going to be able to roll over all your money depending on your vesting schedule. You are always 100% vested in the money that you contributed. If you happen to be a person in a plan with a safe harbor plan, then you're invested in the match as well. But, sometimes some of that profit sharing money, sometimes that has a vesting schedule attached to it. So you're always subject to the vesting schedule. So the don't be that guy section of this show is don't be that guy. And I've met them. Oh boy. And they're not happy. I've met them. They take their money, they take it out of their 401k plan. They put it in the bank. I'm using that language that we don't like to use. They took it out and they took and put. And
and there you have it.
It wasn't pretty.
not not pretty. That's
Not
why
pretty.
it's so important to talk to professionals.
Yes. And this happened to this gentleman that was talking to me about it 15 years ago. He's still pissed.
Oh, I bet he is.
Oh yeah.
Every
Oh,
time he thinks back.
yeah.
He probably couldn't even enjoy his retirement.
No.
Every time he think about that,
Yeah.
it's like my brother-in-law. And it wasn't his retirement that happened to, but it was the way when he took his disbursement for his, he had an accumulated vacation time and some sick time that he was able to get reimbursed for when he retired. And of course, you know, certain departments, certain payroll departments, if they really wanted to be kind, they could split all of those up. When I was in payroll, when I worked for corporate America, I would
Split up
always
the distributions.
vacation time with a separate check. Sick time with a separate check from your paycheck. Your severance pay separate check. So it wasn't all lumped together. Because then, of course, Uncle Sam gets like half of it. That was the way I did it. I just didn't think it was fair for you to lump all those things together. But most payroll company, some of the folks just don't think like that. So of course he got half. Oh my God! So he can't think of his leaving his company, which he had been counting on his retirement since he was 19. Okay. So he doesn't look back on that as a very pleasant exodus.
I can understand that. Definitely.
So I can feel the guy who's still 15 years later still a little bit pissed off.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. So that's that.
Okay.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. And so your final one was, let's see, how much can you contribute?
Oh yeah, that's the biggie, right? So this year you're able to contribute, I believe, 23,000 plus an additional 6,500 if you're over the age of 50. So you're pretty close to 30K a year if you're over the age of 50, and you can take advantage of what we call the catch-up contribution. There's a special rule depending on where you work. If you happen to work for an institution of higher learning or a nonprofit organization that has what we call a 403b7, you may be able to contribute even more than that. You'd want to talk with your HR personnel and your provider, record keeper of the 401 or the 403b, the 403b7 specifically, to see if you can do that, see if you can apply for that. And that's a wonderful bonus if you can do that. You can, those people, and I don't want to get this confused, I'll just leave it there. If you happen to be working for a nonprofit or a education or institution of higher learning, and you have a 403b7 plan, it behooves you to connect with your HR person / record keeper representative to see how much more you can contribute over and above your regular contribution and your catch-up contribution. It could be substantial. Here's the rub, though. If you happen to work for a for-profit organization, you don't get that option. So if you have a 401k plan, you don't get the option of contributing above your catch-up contribution and your regular contribution. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So again, one needs to be, when they tell you got a retirement plan, just don't go like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm going to let them handle it. Y'all really need to find out more about it yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Crystal, I did not get to read your bio, and it is time for us to close this show. So I'm going to read your bio now, and then I'm going to give you the last words, and then we'll sign off. Is that okay?
Sounds excellent to me.
Okay, here we go. So everyone, if you could help me welcome, sort of say goodbye. We need to my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. Here we go. Crystal Mitchell is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. Crystal's a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that other weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Thank you for joining me once again, Crystal Mitchell. Please give us a few comments and wrap this up for us.
All righty. So we want to thank you guys for joining us today. We apologize for all of the technical stuff, but hey, what the heck is online? What can we say? So I'm going to close it out with a wonderful little poem that for mothers, because we're still celebrating moms, and Javon and I we're very blessed to have the mothers that we have had, and our mothers ours are heavenly blessings. But here, what a mother means. Mother is such a simple word, but to me, there's meaning so seldom heard. For everything I am today, my mother's love showed me the way. So we want to wish a belated happy Mother's Day, or wish a happy Mother's Day to all the incredible mothers out there, the women that sacrificed, who loved, who provided wisdom and care, tender loving care to all of their children. Happy Mother's Day to you. And this show is dedicated to you.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. And we'll see you next week.
All righty. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye now.